We are VaxSyna. We're developing stable and effective low-cost vaccines, and we got our start 2 years ago with CAI. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy to be here. Thank you both. Thank you everyone for coming. And I'll jump right into our problem and VaxSyna solution. So the main issue that we're trying to address is that around 14 to 15 million people die every single year globally to infectious disease. So to put that in perspective, that's around a person every 2 seconds. So at the end of my presentation, that means around 300 people will have died. And the biggest gap in vaccines currently is availability. It's not necessarily that we don't have the vaccines, it's that we can't get people the vaccines that really need them. And VaxSyna is addressing this with a vaccine platform based on a antibody protein fusion. So here's a very cartoonified rendition. So it's an antibody with any antigen of interest attached. So we've done a lot of preclinical studies in different animal models for HPV, herpes, tuberculosis, Ebola, the list goes on. And what's really interesting about this is we have a small epitope tag that allows the antibody to recognize itself, and it forms these complexes. And this is one of the two things that gives us extreme stability of our platform. So right now we're testing our temperature stability. We're aiming to be a shelf-stable vaccine. So we can take our vaccine, put it on the shelf, set it there for 1, 2, 3 years, distribute it globally, and address all those availability issues. But we are also very effective. In all of our previous trials, we've seen high efficacy against multiple pathogens in 1 to 2 doses. We're also very easy to manufacture because the processes are essentially the same as monoclonal antibody manufacturing. And while we're focused on infectious disease, we also have a potential use for things like cancer vaccines as well. Real quick, we are patent protected. We have worldwide filings for the platform we're using, as well as variants of this platform. And we're also covered for prophylactic use, so to prevent disease, and therapeutic use to treat disease. We also have 2 additional platforms, or patents, for our expression platform. Now, of course, with a platform technology, we have to start somewhere, and we chose to work on human papillomavirus HPV, because even though we have vaccines currently, there is still a huge gap to be addressed. So just a couple quick numbers from 2022, around 42,000 cases of cancer were caused by HPV in the US, and around 700,000 cases of cancer were caused globally by HPV, and that's with vaccines being available. Now, that is around $10 billion in total cost in the US and around $64 billion globally. So there is a huge amount of money being spent on treating these HPV-caused cancers. And another issue is that there's no simple detection system for HPV at this moment either. Now, our solution to this is a pan-protective HPV vaccine. Current vaccines will cover several strains. So Gardasil 9 is the best-in-class vaccine, covering 9 strains, but there are over 200 strains of HPV, and we're aiming to cover all 200 of those, of which there's over 30 that are known to be cancer-causing. So this, of course, gives us a very large market. The HPV vaccine market is large as is. It's currently $3.9 billion and is estimated to grow to around $12 billion by 2027. And we're aiming to enter the market as a new best-in-class vaccine. So that gives us a serviceable market of around $607 million a year is our estimate, and that will grow with the overall market up to around $4 billion is our estimate by 2027. Now, there is a lot of competition, but I want to highlight that we have high efficacy in 1 to 2 doses. We're aiming to protect against a high number of strains, so greater than the 9 covered by Gardasil currently. We have very low manufacturing costs, so our estimates are around $2 to $3 per dose, and Gardasil 9 takes around $40 to $50 per dose to manufacture. We're also, of course, aiming for that room temperature stability. And in addition, we have seen that we need no adjuvant in our vaccine formulations to get our high efficacy. But we don't want to just stop there. We have a platform technology, so we're trying to address all major issues that we see have extreme gaps. And another one of those is herpes. So herpes has no vaccine or cure. Around 70% of people have herpes type 1 or type 2, and around 30% of people with herpes will have recurrent outbreaks that require antiviral treatments over the course of their entire life. And just in the US, there's around 500 to 600,000 new cases of herpes every single year. Now, this is also a huge market that we're hoping to address. So our initial market is estimated around $1.3 to $1.4 billion. And these numbers are a little bit more on the estimation side than the HPV numbers. And that's just because there is no vaccine in this space, even though people are attempting to make vaccines for herpes. So a lot of the numbers are actually based on the antiviral treatment market, which is estimated to be around $3 to $4 billion by 2030. So we're aiming to be both a prophylactic vaccine and a therapeutic vaccine. So we're going to take over the prophylactic market as well as this antiviral therapy market. Now, there's a lot less competition in this space, and that's why it's one of our pipeline products. We're aiming for protection against herpes type 1 and 2. Again, low manufacturing, room temperature stability, and no adjuvant requirements. Here is our conservative development pipeline. It is a very intensive graph, so I'll just point out what we're working on over on the left-hand side right now, and that is our HPV vaccine R&D and our herpes vaccine R&D. So we're currently in the efficacy trials, the preclinical efficacy trials for both, prepping for our interact meetings with the FDA and going into toxicology. Right now, we're seeking seed funding for mostly the business costs. We have grants covering all of our HPV vaccine R&D pipeline, and we're in the negotiation process for a $1.7 million DoD grant for the herpes vaccine pipeline. So we're seeking that seed funding to cover the business expenses during the execution of both those grants. Now, the way we broke up our pipeline and milestones is for the opportunity of several exits. So an early stage exit after we complete these our preclinical R&D milestones would be estimated around $20 to $40 million after we get the seed funding based on previous companies that have exited at that stage. And then after we complete our complete preclinical pipeline and get to our IND filing, we have another opportunity for exit, and then a late stage exit is the aim currently for our strategy, and that is anywhere from 500 million to billions of dollars once we get through phase 2 clinical trials based on other companies that have similar technologies in the space. Now, the use of funds for the seed funding is mostly going to staffing. So we're hoping to do a couple hires and cover ourselves for those 2 years. We also need to cover our IP filing fees, as well as some overhead, as well as a few R&D points, such as formulation studies that aren't being covered by the grants currently. We have a great team that has put this together. We have 3 co-founders, myself. I have over 7 years of experience in the plant biotechnology field. So that's the system we use to create our vaccines. My co-CEO, Dr. Caitlin Morse, has over 15 years of experience in immunology and vaccines, as well as adjuvants. And then Dr. Mary Parday, who is an inventor of this platform technology, also has over 7 years of experience in this field. We have a great group of advisors. Dr. Hugh Mason has over 35 years of experience in the vaccine field. Dr. Kate Tolenko has decades of experience as a CEO, a co-founder, as well as working in the healthcare system, especially in countries such as Africa. Dr. Sylvain Marcel has over 15 years of experience in vaccine manufacturing. And on the business side, Dr. Mark Schwartz is our main CEO advisor, and he has over 25 years of successful CEO experience. And there's also Dr. Travis Whitfill, who is a co-founder, CEO, and partner at BIOS Partners. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We should have some extra time, or you can email me at jhunter@vaxsyna.com.